Use a longer word, I consume. 或者是 I consumed. 是一样的意思。Yeah. Okay. What we call regular verbs are usually longer. They look more difficult. But the truth is, it's the short ones that have all the problems. 为什么是这样子？因为德文是这样子。Alright? German has this pattern. So the words that English has from German, mostly the short, easy words, the words we use all the time, go, went, gone, right? They all have this kind of a problem. And too many different meanings, right? If you go, what does that mean? It could mean that you leave a place. It could mean that you... If you go to school, are we saying that every day you go there, or right now you go there, or is it just the idea you are a student? You know, where do you go to work? Oh, I don't, I go to school. It doesn't mean the action to go, it means you are a student, right? The small words have so many different ways to use them, they're actually a lot harder to use right. But if you use a longer word instead of go, let's say depart. Depart basically has one meaning, you leave. We have another kind of use when we don't want to say, somebody dies, we can use the word depart. But mostly it's easier to use. But also, eat. How many words do you know that have the same letters that are related to this? How many words have a relationship with eat? Like we can make a noun. A person who eats is an eater. Okay. 还有什么？We don't really have much, but consume. Consumer. 还有 consumption. 还有 consumptive. Okay, this one we don't use a lot. 还有 assume. 还有 presume. 还有 everything that starts with C-O-N, right? So with the longer words, there's more parts for them to make relationships. Mostly, these are the Latin and the Greek words that deal with these topics. So they're harder words because we use them less. Less people know them and use them. But one advantage is they almost all have more than one part. So if you can hear part of the word, maybe you can relate that to something else. So it still takes practice, right? You still need to practice, you still need more vocabulary. But a lot of people have the idea that shorter words are easier. But in English, it's not really like that. 比较短的字有比较多的问题, right? So then we need to start doing some comparing here. If we have two nouns, then how are they different? Then we start looking at these parts. If you hear that then it's somebody who does it, or something that does that. Whereas if you have this consumption, this shun ending, it's more the idea of consuming, okay? If we have this part here and we make the adjective, then it's related more to this meaning, and it's not as close to this meaning, right? We can go by the sound of the spelling there. So again, there's relationships we can make. And when you have this many different pieces to work with, it's a lot easier to guess. With short words, it's what we call hit or miss. Right? If there's a target and you're aiming for the spot in the middle, you're throwing a dart or something, right? With some of these words, it's more like that. Either you hit it or you don't. Maybe the circle is big, but if you don't get it right, it's very wrong. It's completely wrong. But with words like this, it's more, it can be more right or less right, or if you're close, that still helps, right? It's okay to be a little bit wrong. So if you guess there, it's not 100%, but 90% is still better than nothing. So when we use these words, that can help to, when you want to learn them or when you want to listen, if you know what to listen for. When it comes to these topics, of course, the only real practice you get is those tests, right? Because nobody actually reads this kind of book for fun. Then maybe you should, right? Part of the problem with learning another language is you don't learn your own language. And by learning here, I mean actually using it in a way that builds your language skills. Most people I know don't read. In their own language, they don't read. It's all online, right? There's a problem there. If you don't read in your own language, then you don't experience these ideas. I mean, if you don't know the idea for that, medical question in your own language, then it's not just English words you need to understand. You actually need to learn the topic itself, right? So how can you do that? I mean, well, sometimes you can choose the topic you want, right? But in general, find something you like and start doing it. You don't have to know every topic. A large part of learning is just that you need to start. You need to start somewhere. And then from there, I mean, any good book will have more than one topic, right? So you don't have to read this one. But if you, in your language, if you like, I don't know, if you like love stories, romance, the boy meets girl and so on, it's a place to start. You start reading. And then you start finding what you enjoy and put that into the language you want to learn, right? So, honestly, I read a lot of comic books in other languages. I would never read this in German. I mean, I tried. I have a book, similar topic, that I started reading in German, and it's just, if it gets too hard, you give up. right? You don't do it. So, don't read the newspaper in English unless you read it in your own language, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can build those areas of vocabulary, but a large part is really asking the right questions. So then the next part here, what relationships can you make with these words? If you want to build your vocabulary for topics like this, they're not going to be words that you use all the time. So, what can you do? How can you better learn that vocabulary? Come on, you're laughing the whole time. What do you guys think? How could you build your vocabulary on a topic like this?
Well, something related.
Okay, and then what?
Like medicine. Then I can relate with drug.
Okay.
And sometimes I listen to rap.
Mm-hmm.
So I can relation. So I can relate it with rap.
Okay. That's partially what we can do. If you have similar topics, 一样的主题有关系可以, you can find the relationships. But there's a problem there, because say medicine and